As we grow older, the pace of life begins to shift. It's no longer about racing to meet deadlines, climbing ladders, or proving ourselves. Instead, it becomes about something far more precious: peace of mind, meaningful connection, and the quiet joy of simply being. In our golden years, we begin to see that what truly matters isn't how much we've done, but how we feel, especially around others. Think of a quiet Sunday morning. The sunlight filters through your window, a warm cup of coffee in hand, and a gentle sense of stillness fills the room. Then your phone rings. It's a relative again. They need a ride, or money, or your time. You've helped before, many times, but each time leaves you more drained than the last. They never call to ask how you're doing. They only call when they need something. And when you say no, you're made to feel like the bad guy. This is not love. It's emotional manipulation wrapped in the disguise of family duty. And while it may feel uncomfortable to acknowledge, it's essential, because your emotional health matters. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. It's okay to care for yourself now. Setting boundaries doesn't mean closing your heart. It means protecting it. You might say gently, "I'm sorry, I'm not able to help this time." That simple sentence holds quiet power. You don't owe anyone explanations for preserving your peace. When we learn to honor our needs with the same compassion we offer others, we create space for true connection. So today, let's talk about the kinds of people we must lovingly let go of or keep at a healthy distance, so that our later years can be filled with the peace, respect, and care we all deserve. 1. The manipulator. When help becomes a hidden chain. There's a certain kind of person who doesn't ask for support so much as they demand it quietly, subtly, and often wrapped in layers of guilt. Manipulators don't always come with sharp edges. Sometimes they wear familiar faces: a sibling, a cousin, a lifelong friend. At first, their needs seem harmless: a quick favor, a small loan, a ride to the doctor. But over time, the pattern reveals itself. They only reach out when they need something. And the unspoken message is clear: if you say no, you're being cold, ungrateful, or selfish. Imagine this: you've just sat down on your porch with a book, the breeze is gentle, and the world feels soft for once. Your phone buzzes. It's your niece again. She's locked herself out, needs help paying rent again. You pause. You've helped before. You want to say yes. You care. But your chest feels tight, not just because of the request, but because you know how this ends. The moment you say, "I'm sorry, I can't," she'll sigh, maybe cry, maybe even say, "I just thought you'd be there for me." It cuts deeper than it should. Manipulators rarely see themselves as such. They believe their needs are genuine, their emergencies real, and to an extent, they often are. But what they fail to see or choose not to see is the toll it takes on you. The emotional labor, the weight of being their lifeline. Over time, their dependency becomes a quiet chain around your neck, tugging gently but persistently, until you realize you haven't had a truly peaceful day in weeks. Setting boundaries with someone like this isn't easy, especially when love is involved. But love without respect isn't love. It's obligation, and you don't owe anyone your emotional stability. The next time that phone rings, you might gently say, "I wish I could help, but I can't this time." That's it. No guilt-laced apology. No long explanation, just a clear, calm truth. Because protecting your peace doesn't mean turning your back on others. It means turning toward yourself with the same care you've given so freely for years. You are not unkind for choosing rest. You are not selfish for valuing your own well-being. You've earned the right to spend your days with people who pour back into you, who check on you simply to say hello, not to ask for something. Your kindness is not a currency to be spent until empty. It's a gift, and gifts, by their nature, are given freely, not extracted. By recognizing when someone's presence consistently drains more than it gives, and by choosing to set limits with gentleness and grace, you reclaim something precious: your space, your peace, your power. And that, in the quiet landscape of growing older, is worth everything. And sometimes it's not about what people ask from you, but what they never give in return. To the self-absorbed, when your voice disappears, there's a quiet kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being with someone who never truly sees you. The self-absorbed person often labeled a narcissist, isn't always loud or grandiose. Sometimes they're the ones who smile warmly, who speak passionately about their day, their goals, their emotions, but rarely ask about yours. They don't necessarily mean harm, but in their world, there's little space for anyone else's story. Picture this. You're sitting across from an old friend at a diner you've both loved for years. You've brought a photo album, hoping to share a few memories. You turn to a page your grandkids, your late spouse, the garden you finally brought to life. But just as you begin to speak, they interrupt. You should see the backyard project I'm working on, it's massive. You try again. Later in the conversation, but the spotlight never leaves them. By the end of the meal, you've barely said 5 full sentences. You walk away feeling small, like a supporting character in a story that was supposed to be shared. The pain here isn't always dramatic. It's subtle, like erosion. Over time, being around someone who consistently centers themselves can make you doubt whether your voice even matters. You may begin to shrink in conversations, stay quiet, or stop sharing altogether. It's a kind of emotional starvation where your needs, your joys, your griefs are left untouched, while theirs are front and center. The truth is, many self-absorbed people aren't trying to hurt you. They're simply stuck in their own loop, seeking validation, fearing irrelevance, or never learning how to truly listen. But recognizing that doesn't mean you must keep feeding that dynamic. There's power in gently reclaiming space. The next time they redirect the conversation, you might say, softly but clearly, "I'd love to finish what I was sharing, it means a lot to me." Or, "This story is important to me, and I hope you can hear it." These words are not confrontational. They are invitations to connection, to balance, to mutual care. If that invitation isn't met, if your stories continue to be drowned out, then it may be time to shift how much of yourself you give in that relationship. Your voice matters. Your life, in all its richness, deserves a space to be witnessed and held with care. You've lived through love, loss, growth, and grace. Your experiences are not footnotes in someone else's monologue, they are chapters in a beautiful book that deserves to be read aloud. Choosing to step back from someone who cannot see you isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's choosing to surround yourself with people who listen, not just to reply, but to understand. And in that space, your soul begins to breathe again. While some people ignore your voice, others use theirs to slowly chip away at your confidence. 3. The critic, when every word feels like a wound. There are people who never miss an opportunity to point out what you could have done better. They may say they're just being honest, or that they mean well, but over time, their constant criticism can weigh heavier than they know. The critic isn't always harsh in tone. Sometimes they smile as they deliver the blow. Sometimes they couch their words in concern. But the message lands just the same: you're never quite enough. Imagine this. You've decided to join a watercolor class at the local community center. Something just for you. You're proud of your first painting, not because it's perfect, but because it felt freeing. You share it with a friend or maybe a sibling, hoping for a moment of connection. They glance at it and say, "It's nice, but you've always struggled with proportions, haven't you?" The room goes a little quieter after that. You nod, maybe even laugh it off. But inside, something closes. What started as joy now feels like shame. The thing about critics is that their comments often reveal more about themselves than they do about you. People who constantly find fault are often battling their own fears of inadequacy, of losing control, of not being seen. By pointing out your flaws, they distract themselves from their own. But even if their wounds run deep, that doesn't mean you have to carry them. Over time, these tiny remarks pile up. You start second-guessing your choices. You hesitate to try new things. You begin to live smaller, speak softer, and doubt the very parts of yourself that once brought light. That's when you know the critic has seeped into your spirit. The path forward isn't about confrontation, it's about clarity. The next time someone critiques how you spend your time or dismisses your accomplishments, try responding with grace. "I appreciate your perspective, but I'm happy with where I am." Or, "I did this for me, and it brought me joy." These aren't defenses. They're affirmations. They gently remind others and yourself that your life is yours to shape, not theirs to approve. And sometimes, the most healing act isn't in the response, it's in the choosing. Choosing not to seek their approval, choosing not to internalize their words, choosing to invest your time in people who celebrate your growth rather than shrink it. You've earned the right to feel proud of where you are and who you're becoming. Your joy, your peace, your sense of self are not up for debate. Letting go of the critic's voice doesn't make you sensitive, it makes you strong. Because the truth is, you are not here to live under a microscope. You are here to live in color, in fullness, and with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are enough. And then there are those who don't wound you with words but with the weight of problems they expect you to carry. For the irresponsible, when their chaos becomes your burden, there are people who move through life without ever truly facing the consequences of their choices. The irresponsible often carry a trail of unfinished business, broken commitments, and quiet chaos behind them. What makes it especially hard is when they are people we care about: an adult child, a younger sibling, a close friend. And because we care, we find ourselves stepping in again and again to clean up what they've left behind. Imagine this: your nephew calls again. He's short on rent. Again. He's made some bad choices, but he swears this time is different. You've already helped twice this year, but he sounds panicked. You don't want to see him suffer, and besides, he reminds you of your own younger days, when you struggled too, so you send the money. But deep down, something feels off. The gratitude is fleeting, and the cycle continues. Each time he calls, you feel more like a safety net than a relative. That's the hard truth about dealing with irresponsibility. Doesn't always come with malice. Sometimes it's paired with charm, promises of change, and even moments of closeness. But the emotional cost adds up. Instead of enjoying your own space and freedom, you find yourself tangled in someone else's mess. Their panic becomes your panic. Their poor planning becomes your emergency. And slowly, your peace begins to fray. What's important to understand is that always stepping in doesn't help them grow, it shields them from growth. When people are constantly rescued, they miss the opportunity to build resilience, to learn responsibility, and to feel the weight of their own choices. In trying to be kind, we sometimes end up enabling. And over time, this quiet cycle of dependence can leave us drained, resentful, and questioning our own boundaries. Setting limits with irresponsible people isn't easy, especially when guilt is involved. But boundaries are not walls. They're invitations to mutual respect. The next time they come with a request that crosses your emotional or financial limits, you might say with gentleness, "I care about you, but I'm not in a place to help this time. I hope you can find a solution that works." It's not cold, it's honest, and it gives both of you the space to grow separately. You don't have to carry what isn't yours. You've earned your peace. You've worked hard to reach a place where your days are no longer about survival, but about presence and joy. Don't let someone else's unfinished journey pull you backward. Compassion doesn't mean carrying someone. Sometimes it means stepping back so they can learn to walk on their own. And in doing that, you protect your energy, your time, and your hard-earned wisdom. You remind yourself that your love has value, but so does your rest, your freedom, and your right to live without constant crisis. Saying no, in this case, is not rejection. It's release. And that release is what makes space for peace to truly take root. But even heavier than someone's chaos is the quiet ache of giving your heart, only to be met with silence. 5. The ungrateful. When kindness is met with silence, there's a special kind of hurt that comes not from harsh words, but from the absence of appreciation. The ungrateful person may not shout or blame, but they slowly chip away at your spirit through indifference. And often, this happens in the most personal place, with those we've loved, helped, and given to without question. It's not the giving that wears us down, it's the feeling of being unseen in the act. Picture this: you spend the morning preparing your family's favorite holiday meal. The smells fill your kitchen. Your hands move with care. You've made the stuffing from scratch just like your mother did, and even pulled out the old tablecloth. No one else seems to remember. When everyone arrives, there's laughter, noise, but no one mentions the food. Later, someone says the turkey was a little dry this year. That's it. Not a word about the effort, the warmth, the hours you spent pouring love into the day. It's not just about the turkey. It's about feeling invisible. Like your time, your energy, your heart don't quite count. And after a while, Moments like these begin to stack up until giving starts to feel more like a duty than a joy. Ungratefulness doesn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes, people grow so used to your generosity that they stop noticing it. They begin to expect it, like the sun rising comforting, but taken for granted. And that shift from gratitude to entitlement can leave you questioning your worth, especially when you've spent your life showing up for others. But here's the truth. Their lack of acknowledgement says more about them than about you. You are not unworthy just because someone failed to say thank you. Still, that doesn't mean you have to keep giving to those who take without care. Setting boundaries with the ungrateful is quiet but powerful. If you notice a pattern, try shifting your energy. You might say, gently, "I've realized I need to focus more on the things that bring me joy." Or, "I'll be sitting this one outie, need some time for myself." You don't have to explain your choice. You're simply choosing where your light goes. Redirecting your care doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. Invest your time in people who see you, who light up when you walk into the room, who say, "Thank you," and mean it. Gratitude breathes life into relationships. And when you feel valued, the act of giving becomes sacred again. You are not here to be endlessly poured from. You are here to be cherished, to feel the fullness of love returned. By honoring your own contributions and setting limits with those who don't, you create room for peace and space for joy to return. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop giving, where there is no room for your heart to be held. When you've spent a lifetime giving, the greatest act of love may be choosing who is truly worthy of your presence. Choosing peace, the quiet power of letting go. There comes a time in life when the greatest freedom is no longer found in what we gain, but in what we release. Whether it's the manipulator who makes you feel guilty for saying no, the self-absorbed person who never truly listens, the critic who chips away at your confidence, the irresponsible who shift their burdens onto your shoulders, or the ungrateful who leave your kindness unnoticed, each one, in their own way, asks more of you than you can afford to give. You might remember a recent holiday when you offered your time, your care, and your presence only to be met with silence, or worse, complaint. You didn't ask for applause, just acknowledgement, but it never came, and you drove home wondering if what you give even matters. That wondering is where healing begins. The truth is, your worth was never tied to their response. Still, your peace is too precious to be handed away in pieces. Setting boundaries isn't pushing people out, it's drawing a soft circle around your well-being. It's saying, with quiet strength, "I matter too." You might begin small. A simple sentence, "I'm focusing on what brings me joy right now," or "I need space to care for myself." These words are not selfish. They're sacred. They are the language of someone finally remembering that they are allowed to choose ease over obligation, nourishment over depletion. Letting go isn't always loud. Sometimes it's as gentle as a breath, as steady as a step back. But in that space you reclaim, there is room for something beautiful to grow: your peace, your truth, and the relationships that truly honor who you are.